Have you been looking for a camera that can monitor two locations at once? Or did you like the Tapo Hybrid Cam Duo C645D, but wish it was a battery-powered solution instead of a powered camera? Then you're in luck. The Tapo C645D could be exactly what you're looking for. I'll be going over everything from setup and all that you can do in the application to a battery of real-world testing. I'm Wanderer 001. We've got a lot to cover. Let's get into it. To start things off, Tapo did reach out to me and provide me with this camera for the purposes of doing a review. However, they do not have a say into the content of this video. Starting things off with some general specifications, you are looking at a device that is 5.19 inches tall, and that's if you extend the camera all the way out. It has a width going across our front here of 3.22 inches and a length, and we'll have to crank this around, of 6.31. This is a permanently affixed arm to the camera, unlike with the powered version, which it was removable. This is permanently affixed to the top, but does give you a bit of motion. But we're gonna come around to the front here. We have two separate cameras. The specifications for them are fairly similar, but I will point out the differences as we go along. First and foremost, being up top here, we do have a microphone. Down here we have an IR light as well as an ambient light sensor. If we look at either side of our top camera here, which is our stationary camera, we have two IR lights as well as two LED spotlights. Coming down to our pan tilt or PTZ camera, we have two IR lights, two LED lights, and then two red and blue alarm lights to help scare off intruders. It's odd, but it's there. Coming back up to the top, we'll talk about our camera lens. This is a 2K 3 megapixel lens, which has a 1/2.8 CMOS starlight sensor, allowing you to see in low light situations, and has a resolution of 2304 by 1296. It also supports digital zoom up to 10.8, so almost 11, and has a field of view of 165.1 diagonal with a 137.6 horizontal and 73 vertical. If you looked at the original powered version of this camera, this is where you're going to start to see slight differences between the two cameras. FPS supported by the stationary camera is 15 frames a second. Moving on to our pan tilt camera, it has the same resolution at 2304 by 1296 and the same 1/2.8 CMOS starlight sensor and the 10.8 digital zoom. The field of view on this one, however, is 65.5 diagonal, 56.5 horizontal with 30.6 vertical. Again, slightly different than we had with the powered version. It does support 15 frames a second as well. But because this is our PTZ portion, it also has 360-degree pan coverage with 120 degrees tilt coverage. So you could pretty much look behind this camera if you wanted to. Coming back up to our stationary camera, this will be a little easier to see on the side. There is a certain level of adjustability into how you point your lens. It also has a very large PIR sensor right here, which takes up the majority of the front of the camera, which I really like. That means whatever this sees, it should be picked up by the PIR sensor. When we come down to our pan tilt, we can see the PIR sensor on this one is a little smaller. And because of that, I did run into a few instances where the PTZ did not pick me up because PIR sensors are a heat-based motion sensor. If it can't pick up both well, you do run into problems. If we come around to the back, we can see our small speaker right in there. Over under this cap, we have our reset power and micro SD card slot. This can take up to a 512 gigabyte micro SD card, but if you don't want to worry about localized storage on the camera itself, this is also compatible with Tapo's Homebase H500 and H200. So the other side of our speaker, this is actually our power port for recharging, but also use with the solar panel if you get this as part of a kit. If we flip things up to the top here, we can see this is our adjustable mounting arm, and this one is permanently affixed to the camera itself. But when we look at it, it does give us the ability to point our stationary camera to a location that we would prefer to get video from instead of relying on just the PTZ camera. The camera itself has an IP rating of 65, and I will say that I have had this both rained on and snowed on, which means the operating temperature of -4 degrees Fahrenheit up to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. I have been able to test the lower end of that at 19 degrees. One of the things I like to point out on lenses especially is right here for our stationary, might be a little tricky to see, there's a lip around it, meaning that water will cascade around it. And generally, you're gonna have your PTZ camera facing like that. So you have a shroud that's gonna help keep the water off of it. So you're not really gonna have droplets on the lens interfering with your video. The camera supports both the 2.4 gigahertz as well as the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi spectrum. If you need longer range or faster speeds, you can do both with this, which is a great thing to see in a security camera. The voice assistants that are supported by this camera are Amazon's Alexa, Google Assistant, and Samsung SmartThings. Now that we've taken a look at the camera, certainly there's more to it than that. Let me show you what else we get in the box with it. We've got our solar panel, mounting arm, C-to-C extender cable if you don't plan on using the kit to mount the solar, blank for the kit if you don't plan on using it, A to C cable for charging, quick start guide, public guidance, mounting stickers, and then contacting Tapo support for setup and so forth. This is interesting. They have a zip tie in here for cable management. Pull that to the side because right here we have mounting screws and anchors. And then last but not least is the actual camera itself. One of the important things that you saw when I was unboxing is this. It is the solar panel for this camera. You are looking at 6.82 inches by 4.74. The output from this solar panel is 2.5 watts. And what I will say is when utilizing it as part of the kit, and you can see I just kind of brought it inside because there's still droplets on it. I have found that this actually does a very good job of keeping the camera topped off in even less than ideal lighting situations because I'm in my winter season now, so I don't get light all the time. But this has still managed to keep the camera topped off once it was at a full charge. With the solar panel out of the way and mentioned, the camera has a built-in 10,000 milliamp rechargeable lithium ion battery. That's what's going to keep this going. Based on 1 hour of direct sunlight with that solar panel, it would be enough to keep it topped off. And I can attest to that, even while I was running a battery of tests to make sure this worked as described. Tapo states that the battery life is 120 days depending on activity. So if you have a really busy area, it's going to be less. But if you're going to use this with the solar panel, which I strongly recommend, you're going to be able to keep that topped off and not have to worry about running out of power. This is a smart device, so that does mean that there is a setup process for it. So let me show you what that was like. So we're going to come here, we're going to press the plus sign, add device, and we're going to search for it because there's a lot of cameras. Probably an outdoor camera though. Yeah, we're just going to search for it. There it is. We're going to select the power on the device, lift this up. We're going to press the power sign right there. Okay. Red light, camera on. It says camera on, it's flashing red and green as it is depicted here. We're gonna hit next, gonna connect via Bluetooth, and always remember to pick up and hold your pan tilt cameras because they're gonna move around on you. But it has detected it, searching for Wi-Fi, has my Wi-Fi information saved, but when I hit next, it's gonna show me that again. So I'm gonna turn that so you can't see it. But I did hit next on my password information again. It said connecting to Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi connected. And it's all connected up. So we're going to give this a name. So we gave it a name. Now its location, we're going to leave it at the garage. That was it getting added to my Alexa. And we can select an image for this, which we'll do this one and hit next. And configuration complete. Sounds good. Do you want to try Tapo Care? You don't need to use their cameras. So I'm just going to say, got it. Don't need it. Set up your localized storage. So you're going to put your micro SD card in there, which I've already done. And then when do you want this to look for updates? I'm going to select this one because I have a lot of other cameras at the default time. I'm going to hit next. Turn on smart dual tracking. Yep, want that. Tap to focus. Yep, want that. And then this is going to pop up the Wi-Fi, but also show you my face behind the camera here in a moment. But we're going to hit next, and then it's just going to walk you through placement and so forth. Next. Don't use with glass. Okay. Proper placement. Next. Swipe swipe, swipe. Okay, next. You can either charge the batteries using power or the solar, giving you examples of how you're going to do this with the solar kit. We're going to hit next. How are you going to mount this? I would use the kit. That's why I would do it. And then it'll walk you through how to do the kit. We're going to skip the test and it's testing things again. And there you saw my face. So all set. Everything's finished. So it should be listed right here. And right now the battery is a little low. So hi, this is your smart camera. Walks you through all the stuff. Got it. That was set up. This camera supports synchronized smart tracking, which seamlessly follows movements of persons, pets, and vehicles, and will send you AI notifications based on that type of activity. What I want to point out is Tapo does not charge you extra for those. Those are all built into purchasing the camera. Yes, they do have a subscription service, but they don't cripple their cameras like some other manufacturers do in order to have access to what I would consider basic functionality now for a smart camera. I just wanted to point that out before we jump into the application so that you could see everything that you can do. You can see right here, it lists it on my favorites page along with my other Tapo cameras. Right here, I have a quick toggle to turn the live view on and off, or privacy mode. Here you could see its location as well as its battery status. Currently it is charging, which is why it's green and has a little lightning bolt. If I click into it, it's going to open it up and give it a second to load up. And here I could see my two views from it. You have your pan tilt and then your stationary view right here. Also at the top, we have the name of the camera, its connectivity status, battery percentage, and then we'll talk about that later. If I tap on my dual view, you could see I'm in the single view. If I tap on this, it'll allow me to do a multi-pane where I can select other Tapo cameras to have in my view. So there we go. I have my multi-view, and then I could double tap that one to change the view, or in my case, I'm going to go back to the single view because we don't need to see those other cameras. Coming down to the right of our multi-camera view, we have our clarity. Right now I have it forced into 2K, but we can do 720 or auto, where it will switch between the two based on your connection. To the right of that, we have auto. What this does is, if I select this, is for the day-night mode. So right now it switches between day-night mode based on ambient light, but I could force it to stay in the day mode, or I could force it to stay in the night mode. What I want you to notice here is this is for the PTZ view. You also have to do this for the fixed view. So this is the one thing with this camera, you're gonna have to put options in multiple places because each of these video feeds is counted as a single camera feed. And I'll explain a little more about that later. To the right of our day-night switch, we have full screen view. Now I do this just so you can see where the layout of everything is. So we can see it kind of pushes some of these options off to the side, and then minimize our PT or stationary. We could double tap to change between the two views. We're going to go back to our full screen view. While we're talking about this, I'm going to show you. It is zoom, but it is pinch to zoom. So if we do this, there you could see pinch to zoom on that one. And then on this, pinch to zoom. And double tapping either will bring that view back out. Under the settings, you can do what's known as a touch to move. So right there, I told it, go look in that direction for the PTZ camera. I'm going to do another one on the house up there because I want to show you the difference between the field of view or the zoom on our PTZ camera. So I'm going to zoom in on my neighbor's house there. You can see the bars on the air conditioner, and then I'm going to do it down here as well to its maximum. So you get an idea of the actual, I'm going to pull that back out because I lost it. But I also like in the corner right there, it's actually showing you the digital zoom that you're doing. So right there, that's the 10.8. So that's the maximum it can do. So it shows you the difference because there's the 10.8 on that one too. So there's the difference in the zoom between the two cameras. Moving down, we have our photo. Selecting this will take a still image of whatever happens to be in frame. To the right of that, we have our record. Selecting this will record anything that's happening in the live feed of this camera. Nothing was happening, so nothing really got recorded, but that's the idea behind that. To the right of that, we have our camera microphone. I like to have this all the way up, especially when I'm testing, just to give it the best opportunity to collect audio. To the right of that, we have a telephone. This is going to be our two-way talk. If I tap on this, now people outside are hearing what I'm saying because this is a full duplex mode. I can turn that off. We're going to tap it again to show you the other options, which is we have our microphone on and off, or our speaker on and off. Now that's going to be camera side, not on your side. Also on this page in the upper right-hand corner, we have our options. This is going to control our speaker volume and our microphone volume. But notice right from here, we can also access our pan tilt controls. Now this is important because maybe you're in a call, but you want to manually move your camera around a little bit to follow somebody. We also have in the upper right hand corner for the pan tilt our settings for the degree of change, which is also why you saw mine moving very, very slowly, because I lowered this one to 5 degrees of change instead of 10 so that I could lock it in over on the side there, which will make more sense when we talk about our pan tilt controls. So right down here, we have our favorite spots, and hypothetically for the pan tilt, I'm going to say that is a spot I want to keep. You can give it a name, you hit save, and that locks in. Now what it does is, if I tap on my viewpoints, it will automatically shift to the location, like you can see here. So it's a way to quick toggle between them. You did see me before. We'll bring it over here to be a little more noticeable. When I was over here, I can go down. It's much more noticeable since I have something to stare at, but it's also doing that 5 degrees of change, as I mentioned before. If we select the settings on this page, it will allow us to change that between the 5, 10, and 15 degrees of change. Now we have our patrol mode, which will allow it to, if I do pan up and down, it's going to patrol vertically one time based on you touching that. And there it's done. Also on the side, again, the settings for our pan tilt degree. We have pano. What this will do is it will, and I'll say just do a 180, create a path. What this is going to do is it's going to move the pan tilt camera and create a still image. And what it'll allow you to do, instead of setting up those quick toggle spots like you saw me do before, the pano will have a picture, and then you could just tap along the picture to lock in where you want. Now, what it's doing right now is it is calibrating itself in order to do the panoramic picture. So it's going to its furthest point right now, and the calibration should be just about set, and it's going to start doing the incremental movement. And just like in our other locations, tapping this will allow us to adjust the pan tilt 5, 10, or 15 degrees. To the right of that, we have our alarm. This is alarm on or off. This will actually set the alarm up to be triggered with movement. Sounds like this when it happens. To the right of that, we have privacy mode. Selecting privacy mode turns the cameras off completely so you can't view anything from the live feed and nothing will be recorded. Coming down, we have our single view. So if I want a single view, I can select that. If we want to swap it, we simply select that, and you could switch between the two views. Notice the pan tilt controls turn themselves on and off when you're in your PTZ mode, but you're getting this because of the dual view, so you might as well use it. To the right of that, we have our light, and turning that on will turn the LEDs on. Here, I'll insert a picture of this actually working at night, but do notice that there is a timer in the upper right-hand corner because this is a battery-powered camera and it needs to save on power, so it's not gonna let you leave those lights on all the time. To the right of that, we have our tag on and off. This is simply something to put a box around a person, pet, or vehicle to make it easier to track them as they move through frame. Next to that, we have Tapo Care, which is a subscription service that Tapo offers, but is completely voluntary because their cameras are 100% functional without having to pay a subscription. But if you did want to pay for Tapo Care, here's what you get. 30 days of unlimited cloud storage, rich text notification, which is the only thing that I would consider paying for because of the local storage you get with this camera. But the rich notification, instead of just getting a text message saying movement was seen, you get a little thumbnail along with that. You have video summary, weekly report, smart sort, baby growth. This is an outdoor camera, so maybe not. And as we come down to our playback and downloads, this is going to be where I start talking about things. And I want you to notice what happens to our images up there. They shrink down. That is something that I still don't know if I like, because when I come down to my playbacks and downloads, it's going to keep this. If I scroll down to see other things, it's going to make that really small and hard to see. But here we have all of our action items. So this is it saw a person. This was me testing it outside. You notice it groups the two cameras together. But if we want to download this, we select the dots and we select download, correct event type, or cancel. Correcting the event type means, hey, first pick your camera. So I'll say that one. And then it says it was a person. If it wasn't, you could change it or say it was a non-event and then apply, and that'll help the AI get smarter. If I wanted to download this, I would simply select download, and now it's going to my downloads. But notice, because of the way that this shrinks up here, it might be difficult to, well, here's a person. I want to see that. Now I have to drag this back down to see that person more clearly. Now, while I have that person on screen there, in the upper right-hand corner, we have our downloads area. You could see I've got a download currently happening. I could select that. If for whatever reason your download fails, simply select the re-download right there. And that little icon means that it is on your SD card and not from the cloud. We'll let that finish doing what it's doing. We can filter, so we can look for photos, videos, cloud videos, video summaries. So can kind of help find what you're looking for, especially if you've got a lot in here. And then if we select this, I can multiple select items to share, favorite, download, or delete right from here. If we come back to this page, to the right of that, we have our 3 dots. This will allow us to shrink it down to single view, which makes it so it doesn't collapse everything, but then you're limited to which view it is. So right here, I would have to switch between the 2 views. So that's a nice add-on, but I feel the execution could be a little better. We also have the ability to change the speed all the way down to 1/16 or up to 16 times. You can see the blue as it's following me, but we also have the ability to pause, mute, take a still, record, trim, which is if we have a long video clip, we can cut that down and then download it, which is helpful. And then you have your full screen mode there if you wanted to see it. We also have a timeline, which is what you see down here. And in this timeline, you'll see there's 2 different color lines up and down. One is for the PTZ, one is for the stationary, but this will allow you to look for events through your timeline, scrubbing that way if you wanted to. We could change the date. Every blue dot indicates a day that has something that was recorded. We can shift between days by selecting left and right there, or we can filter and look for something. We could say PTZ, we want to look for pet and person and apply. And now it limits only things that have a pet or a person for our filter. We can select our cloud if we have anything in the cloud, but right here it's showing us the SD card because everything we have is on the SD card. And we're going to back that out because that was everything that we can do in our playbacks and downloads, which is also everything that we can do for the camera controls for the Tapo C645D. Now we're going to come up to the settings. At the top of our settings page, right here, we have our name of our device and the image we have with it, as well as device info. A lot of sensitive information, won't be showing you that, but that's where you can go to check your firmware. We have our detection. Selecting this will allow you to, 1, set up unique detection zones, but also wake up sensitivity. Here we go. Wake up sensitivity is how sensitive you want either the fixed lens or the PTZ lens to be when it's detecting stuff. Detection range test will allow you to test and see if you need things to be more sensitive or less sensitive. But you got to do that for both the fixed and PTZ lens. We also have our auto track. So you can select never auto track, track all activity, which is motion, pets, and stuff. You can track specific activity, which is what I like. So here you could track pets or people and track vehicles. This is kind of on the side of the house, so I don't necessarily need it to do that because it'll catch that road up there. We have detection zones. Right now, I have it set for all, and then we have motion. Well, maybe I don't want motion. Person, pet, vehicles off. Okay, we're good there. If I select set for all, that's the default. But we could set for each. So right now, if I come into edit, and again, you're gonna have to do this for both the lenses. Motion, we're gonna change this to person. Notice the color changes to let you know what you're doing. So let's say for a pet, I only care about that. On my fixed lens, still on pet, maybe I care about over there. Person, well, I really only care about there. And on this lens, I will say it's the same area, so it's over there. And then I hit save. And then only those areas will be active zones for detection. Now we can add more zones, as you can see. There's a bunch. We could delete one at a time. We could clear all, and then we could go into landscape mode, which would make it a little easier to do because you're working on this itty bitty screen. So we're just gonna set for all and then let it do its thing. And just like you saw before, it's looking for persons and pets. I turned off detection for motion, but I left on these 2. So there's a great deal of customization for your detection types. So the right of that, we have alarm. You can turn that on and off. So that's going to be detection alarm. It's going to be when there is movement, not just setting it off. You have your alarm type. You can do sound and light, or just your sound. You could do your sound type, default custom, and then you go high, medium, and low. So you have your different types here, which is siren, emergency, and red alert. Or you could select custom and add a custom sound. What this will allow you to do is tap to record a custom sound. You have 15 seconds to make something up so that you could tell it, hey, get off my lawn. I see you there. This camera's on all the time. I saw you dancing in front of it the other day. Go away. No soliciting. Please don't make me keep going. And it should be done. There we go. And then you could tap to play, which will play it outside. You can select to record again and save your sound if you wanted to. And then that would use the custom sound that you made. Now, you also have light type. Do you want white or do you want red and blue? So this will allow you to have different types of flashing at the person. Next, we have alarm duration. So you have default, or custom. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30, or you do anywhere in between if you do the custom. Alarm event type. Only triggers of a specific type will set it off. Maybe we don't want motion, we don't want pet, we only want person and vehicle because those are the only things that I don't want around or I want to scare off. I'll leave the pets alone for now. And then you have your alarm schedule. All day or during the day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., during the night, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., or a custom range, which will allow you to set days and time. And that was all of our alarm. Coming down, we have our battery status. You can see right now it is charging and it is at 94%. If I select this, it's going to show. Here's my show battery status, show percentage, and working mode. I have it set for a custom, but you could select high performance balance or power saving. In the custom mode, it will allow you to adjust clip retrigger time, clip recording buffer, and clip length. Moving down, we have our solar charge data, which will give you data further down. You have auto privacy mode. This is useful if you're going to charge the camera in your house, but if you're going to charge it with the solar panel, don't turn this on because as the solar panel charges it, it will automatically go into privacy mode and you won't catch anything. Coming down, we have our battery usage over the last 7 days. Here it is over the last 30 days. Battery usage, you could see if I change this to 30 days, it'll give you a better idea of what I've been doing. Time of use, wake up types, event, and then filtered by AI. Solar energy output was the one that I turned on up there. I appreciate that Tapo gives us a bunch of information here because I enjoy data, and the fact that I have all that data at my fingertips is very useful. Moving down, we have our pan tilt. Selecting this, well, here we have patrol mode. Right now it's off. If I turn this on, it gives you a warning that it consumes power to do this, but we need to mark some positions. So I'm going to say add that and add a marker, save, add another marker, viewpoint 1, save. Now, if we turn patrol mode on, what this will do is it will move between these 2 points. Now, you could set up your schedule. So always during the day, during the night, or a custom, just like we could with some other areas. We can reorder these, but it's currently patrolling, so I can turn that off and then reorder them by selecting there and dragging one over the other like that. And what it will do is you could see it will stay in viewpoint 1, viewpoint 2 for an hour before moving back and forth between the two. So it's not a true active patrol mode, and you don't get a lot of customization that you got with the powered version of this. But again, it's to preserve battery, which I understand. Here we have our pan tilt angle. 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. You've seen me show you this in a lot of other areas. And then we have our pan tilt correction, which will move the camera around to find its true center point. Coming down, we have smart dual tracking. I do like this feature in that if something is seen in the stationary camera, the pan tilt camera will snap over to it to follow it. And you can even select the types. So right now I have person and pet for this particular action. And then tracking range, you could select continuous or fixed tracking, which is once the target leaves the fixed view, the pan tilt stops. I like this one better because even if it leaves this view, the pan tilt will continue to follow it as long as it can. And then we have our pan tilt corrections once more. Coming down, smart tap to focus, on or off. You saw me do this when I was showing you the digital zoom portion. So if you tap in a location, you'll see this box, and then your PTZ camera will snap to it. And then you have pan tilt reset on or off, which I would say do that after wake up so that it goes back to its center location. And then again, pan tilt correction. Another location for Tapo Care, don't necessarily need that. So we're moving on to storage and recording. Right now it is doing local recording. You could see here, this is my local storage. It's showing you how much has been used. It will loop recording. We've got SD card encryption, which is a new beta feature in a lot of Tapo cameras. But if you turn this on, you leave the password and the camera in order to get video off of the SD card. So if you're worried about somebody taking your SD card, this is a way that you can lock it down and then format your SD card. Under that, we have our clip setting. Here we have our retrigger time, record buffer, maximum clip length, and all of that is customizable depending on what you want. And we have our record schedule. So detection recording or don't detect, and then you can edit it as you would like. And then record sound. If you live in an area where you can't record sound, that's how you toggle that on and off. But if you can, I strongly recommend that you do. Coming down, we have video and display. Right now, I have night mode settings. And again, notice fixed lens and PTZ lens. You have to switch it for both. Right now, they're in both full color. But it's interesting, you could do one being infrared, and then you could do near, far, medium, and then the other being full color. So depending on how you have the cameras pointed, you can kind of customize the look and feel of it, which I really like. Under that, we have our video quality. You've got 2K 720, which is data saving, but is still considered HD or auto, switch between the two. Next, we have privacy zones. I will turn that on, and then we will select a camera. Now, you have an option of the PTZ or the fixed camera. Now, the problem with adding a zone on the PTZ, save, now I'll show you what I mean, is now we have a box, and that box will prevent you from seeing anything in that corner. That means in the live feed, in your recordings, you won't see anything. But remember, the view that I was looking at, that box was over somebody's house. If I come in here and I move it, notice the box stays in frame while the camera moves. So that's the only problem with doing a privacy zone on a PTZ camera. There are other manufacturers that prevent you from even turning on a privacy zone on your PTZ camera because of that. But if you're looking for a privacy zone for the stationary camera, works perfectly fine. Coming down, we have image settings. Well, we've got original, cool, warm, or soft. This will allow you to kind of change the color temperature, and you could kind of get an idea of what's going on. You also have the ability to change the image brightness. So right now it's at 50, but I could lower that because, wow, you know, that white car is really throwing off the balance. Or if it's at night and I kind of want to see something, I could turn that up. The problem is there's no auto to do this between the day and the night, so you have to manually do this, which means if you're constantly changing it, you might have to keep track of that. We've got our auto exposure on and off. All the video that I've been taking is with it off because I prefer the look of it. But if you want to see kind of the difference between the two, you could turn that on and off, and you could set it for person or pet to change the auto exposure. Detection tag. This is the blue box around somebody that I was saying. Or we also have the label, which will tell you if that's a person or a pet that the blue box is following. On-screen display information. We've got display time, display text, and display logo. Text could be useful if you have multiple cameras and you want to have one in docking bay 3. Notice that you can set it up for the PTZ and the fixed camera. And then if we do time date stamp, that will slap it on both cameras. Under that, we have display tag on screen. This is going to be your connection speed or whether it's live or not. And I like that they give you a little preview. Coming back, we move on to our spotlight brightness. Right now I have it out of 5 of 5, but remember, we can change that for both. So if you need to adjust that for one or the other, you have that ability. They have a quick toggle right there, so you can actually test your view if you wanted to. Next, you have LED status light. On or off. It's just a little dot in the front of the camera letting you know that it's on. Network connection, that's how you can change your Wi-Fi settings. We have privacy mode, quick toggle right here, but there's also one on the main screen. Notifications, you could select on or off. So we have activity notification or rich notification. Rich notification, you do need your Tapo Care subscription for, which again is the only thing that I kind of wish that it had, but I understand why it doesn't. And then down here, we have activity type. So I want to be notified of person, pets, or vehicles, not motion. And then I have a schedule, always, or during the day, during the night, and a custom time, much like we had in other locations. Moving down, we have advanced settings. This will allow you to adjust the power line frequency between 60 and 50 hertz. This is generally for flickering with LED lights. If you've gotten lights from somewhere else or you're using the camera, not where you purchased it type of thing. You have voice call mode. So we've got standard mode or compatibility mode, which is it will downgrade a lot of the options to make sure that the connection goes through while you're talking. And the same thing with display settings. You have hardware acceleration or compatibility mode. Again, pushing everything as low as it will go so you actually can see what's going on. And then you've got your diagnostics on or off. You don't need that unless you run into a problem with your camera and need to send Tapo some information. Generally, you also want to turn that off after you send them that information. We have share device next, and notice right now I don't have anything, but if I select the share, they'll have to have their own Tapo account and an email that I can send this to. We have smart actions next, which is really good. I like Tapo's way of doing this. It's a very simple if this then that. So technically you could set it up to say, if either of the cameras sees something, turn on a light in your house. Or if this camera sees something, set your porch light to turn on. It's very simple. You hit the plus sign, you do an automation, And then, like I said, if this, then this happens. And you just select your different Tapo devices. I set this up for a Tapo smart switch to turn on smart lighting in my basement. Review over there in the corner. Under that, we have user guide. You've got your welcome and your mounting guide. You've got your support center. You have your firmware update, so another place that you can check your firmware or update your firmware. We've got reboot camera and remove camera. And that has been everything that we can do for the Tapo C645D in the Tapo app. Now that we've seen everything that we can do for this camera, what's next? For me, testing. I like to see exactly how well this performs in a real world situation. Starting off, audio. How does it sound from the camera to the application and vice versa? What I will say is audio from the app to the camera is very clear and there's no issue hearing anything. However, audio from the camera to the app is a little low and muffled. Let's take a listen.
Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test.
Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test.
One other audio consideration that you might not have thought about, because this is a PTZ camera, is actually the sound or motion sound that this camera makes. What I will say is, standing next to it, you're not really going to hear this moving around when it's 360 and when it's looking up and down. You're not going to hear that. However, in the video from this camera, whether it's from the stationary or the PTZ, you are going to hear something, and it is the motor sound, and I don't know why this camera does it as opposed to the powered version. It could just be the way that they had to move things around to support that 10,000 milliamp battery. But let's take a listen to that. Honestly, can only hear something because I'm right underneath it. If I'm even this much out, I can't hear anything.
This will be audio sample. Have it adjust up and down, left and right. See have it adjust up and down, left and right.
With our audio out of the way, we move on to video. And what I will say is, over there in the right-hand corner, I will have a link to the non-downscaled raw video files from this camera, as they will be downscaled to 1080 for this video. Starting things off, the camera itself actually saves its video as two separate video feeds, so two separate video files, unlike some other things that I've tested where it'll stitch the two together into a single video format. I, at first, was not a fan of having the two separate video files, but the more I've used this type of camera, I appreciate having two separate files for that. One other thing that I like to point out with a PTZ camera is what happens when two people walk into frame. And what I will say is, this will stay locked on to the first person or object that wanders through frame. It will not be confused with somebody passing in front of the other person or behind the other person. I did test this out, but my assistant does not like to be on camera. So sadly, can't show you that part, but I am letting you know what my test results were for that. Starting off with video samples during the daytime. For the fixed camera, colors are pretty accurate with decent picture quality for both background and targets moving through frame. Video does lose some clarity once target comes into frame, and compression artifacting can be seen on both the target and background. However, overall video is still good, with it being able to make out what the target is as well as the background, even with faster moving targets. For our PTZ camera during the day, colors are the same as the fixed camera. Picture quality does suffer when the camera is tracking a target. When not moving, overall image quality is good with little to no artifacting. Once camera starts to move, image quality suffers, especially the background image. Artifacting is present and can become rather blurry for the background. Tracked target does do better with only a little artifacting noticeable around moving parts, in my case, arms and legs. Overall image for tracked target is pretty good, with the target's face and wording on clothing still readable depending on the speed the tracking camera is moving at. Faster target, harder to keep up. IR light at night for the fixed camera. Overall image quality is fair. There is enough detail to make out the background and target moving through frame. Background clarity does a little better than it did during the daytime. Targets do show more artifacting even when moving slowly. Nothing too blocky, just an overall blurriness to the look. Depending on the IR settings, the face can be washed out on a target if the target gets too close to the camera. However, target overall remains clear even when moving quickly through frame. PTZ, still image quality looks good and sharp with background and foreground being well defined. Once camera moves to track a target, background becomes blurry and hard to see. However, tracked targets do look clear and well defined with some artifacting seen. Face can be made out as well as patterns on clothing. Can wash out the face the closer to the camera the target is depending on IR settings, but overall I liked the look of the picture from the PTZ camera over the stationary camera. Stationary camera LEDs at night. Image quality looks good with background looking more defined than when using the IR lights. LEDs offer good coverage. Pixelization can be seen on moving targets as well as small amount of ghosting around legs on faster moving targets. Overall, target clarity is good despite compression artifacting. Face can be washed out if the person is too close to the camera, depending on LED settings. PTZ camera at night with the LEDs. Still image quality looks good and sharp with background and foreground being well defined. Once camera moves to track the target, it becomes blurry and a little hard to see. However, track target looks good and clear, well defined with some artifacting seen. However, track target looks clearer and more defined than the IR lights, with some artifacting being seen. Face can be made out as well as pattern on clothing. Face can be washed out, just like the stationary camera, depending on your settings if the person gets too close to the camera. Overall, for the night, I prefer the look of the PTZ camera over the stationary camera for both the IR and black and white, for both the IR and LEDs, however, preferring the LEDs a little more. Now that we've talked about our picture quality, what's next? Well, that's detection speed. If this is going to be to let you know that somebody's getting into a place where they shouldn't be, you want to be notified as quickly as possible. So let me show you what my detection speed tests were like. Pan tilt, PTZ camera for Tapo, battery powered. I forgot to mention before, 5G. When I get around the corner here, it should see me. Let's see if, all right, that one's a little longer, so between 4 and 2 seconds for the PTZ to pick me up. All right, this will be stationary camera, Tapo, battery powered, dual cam, attempt number 2. Waited for a little bit of a cool down on 5G. Stepping out here, it should see me, and the pan tilt sees me. There we go. Yeah, fixed camera lens was first, and then the other one moved to see me, so not bad. About 4 to 5 seconds for both cameras. That's pretty good for battery powered. There's a great deal about this camera that I like, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. So I want to point out a few cons that I ran into during my testing. First being the Wi-Fi connectivity is a little iffy sometimes, and that could lead to notifications being a little delayed. And I had the same issue with its powered version. I just think they're shoving a lot in here, and the Wi-Fi antennas are suffering because of that. Image quality, mostly on the PTZ camera, can be a little bad when it's tracking somebody, but once it's locked on and stationary, it's very clear. One thing to compare this to the powered version is its detection type. This is a PIR sensor for both of these, meaning it needs both heat and motion, and the range on that can be tricky, especially depending on how you have your PTZ camera situated. The powered version uses a pixel base, meaning any movement will get picked up and you'll get a notification much faster than this. But you're getting this mostly to put in a place that you can't have a powered line to. So data point for you. One of the big cons that I found, especially for it being a PTZ camera, is the motor sound motion that you hear in the video as it's moving and tracking. You hear it in both sets of video, so I don't know why it's doing that. The other version didn't do that, and it could be, again, they had to shove 10,000 milliamp battery in here, so maybe some of that sound dampening got put aside. If you can live with the slightly ominous, weird sound that comes from this while it's tracking, that's perfectly fine. It's just something that I wanted to point out. And the last thing that I wanted to point out was the red and blue warning lights, we'll call them. I know of one other camera that has that, and I feel that it was a Me Too type of move by Tapo, and personally, I feel it's a little gimmicky. I'm not going to use it because honestly, a stationary camera that's flashing red and blue is not going to deter somebody from being around. I'm just putting that out there. Overall, I like the two cameras setup and being able to monitor two places at once from one camera. This is something that I did not realize I was missing until now. The fact that I can have both a wide field of view as well as a zoomed in one that can snap to the location in the wide field of view if necessary is great. And having separate video feeds for each camera, while at first, as I mentioned, was a little annoying, but the more I used it, the more I appreciated the benefits of having two separate video feeds instead of having them stitched together. If you're in need of a camera that can monitor multiple locations at once and does not need to be plugged in to use and can keep its batteries topped off using solar, I can recommend the Tapo C645 as a very capable option. If this sounds like the pan-tilt camera you've been looking for, I will have a link where you can pick one up for yourself in the description area below. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making a comprehensive video like this, make sure to hit the like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Still not sure this is the right outdoor pan-tilt camera for you? On screen now, you'll see two other reviews that I've done to help you make a more informed decision for yourself.